Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the KnifeCenter, and was already working on the topic for this video when one of you guys asked a question that perfectly encapsulates why. Michael Pitts says, DCA, what is the lowest price knife you would recommend for an EDC? That's right, this week we're taking a look at the cheapest good knives that money could buy. Let's check them out. So the thing that made me start kind of working on this video is this knife right here, the K-Bar Dozier in AUS 8 stainless steel. And this is often the thing I think of when somebody who doesn't want to spend any more money than they have to get a good knife. But this is the knife I point folks to because it's got everything the quote-unquote cheap knife buyer would likely want. You've got a blade about 3 inches here, so it's a good enough size to cover slightly larger and slightly smaller things equally well. The materials are good, AUS 8, solid stainless steel right there. It's even ambidextrous with a movable thumb stud and a reversible pocket clip, and of course the back lock right there. And the handle as well is going to work for just about anyone thanks to that neutral shape that it has. It just works really well. But what else is out there? That's what I started to think about for this video. And it's been a while since I've really scrutinized stuff at the $25 mark. We're gonna see what else we can get for the roughly $25 that this version costs right here. And when folks are asking me for this type of recommendation, that Dozier has some things that are gonna be important, or that I want the recommendation to have. You've got a thumb stud, you've got a lock, and you've got a pocket clip. So even though the Opinels are fantastic knives, you have to be a little bit of a different sort of person to want to carry this. This is not a general purpose recommendation. Enthusiasts, yeah. Hipsters, yeah. Me, yeah. Thin slicey blades, they're awesome. But not what most folks are looking for. And there's plenty of good tiny knives. Knife on this list today can be small, but I don't want to see anything mini. That's not what I'm looking for. Stuff like the Gerber LST, it's a mini knife. Not what I would recommend as like the cheapest good knife you can buy. Doesn't seem to fit. Also, we don't have a pocket clip here, which again, I'm using that, or making that a disqualifying feature too. For the same 25 bucks as that Dozier, what if you want something with more fun action or more fidgety action? The Kershaw Oso Sweet, really cool, $24.95 right now. You've got an assisted opening mechanism with a flipper. Lots of fun. Repeatable action every time, very consistent, still easy to close one-handed, and really sweet. Great little blade shape too. Again, just about 3 inches, or just over in this case, 8CR stainless on this guy. Let me just check to make sure, yep. Which is metallurgically, it's essentially the same thing as the AUS 8 on that Dozier. Handles, comfortable as well. Maybe not quite as neutral, but still seem to work pretty well, even on larger handed folks. And the little contouring they give you there is nice too. Still plenty of texture thanks to the molded pattern they give it. Liner lock, so this is not as ambidextrous of a design overall. Definitely a right-hand biased design. The pocket clip, same thing, right side only, tip down carry in this case, but man, what a capable little knife for that price point. Now, if you want something bigger, also just under 25 bucks, the Buck Bantam. This is a really nicely made knife for the money. 3 5/8 of an inch long blade, US made 420 HC steel right there. And if you like the design, you can get smaller versions of this for less money. I think there's a medium and a small. Some of the smalls I think are like 18 bucks, around 20 bucks nowadays. Very affordable and very well worth it. Nicely shaped handle, a little less neutral still, but the big one here, plenty of real estate as you can see. Mid-mounted back lock, works well. Single position pocket clip though, even though the lock and the thumb studs are ambidextrous. It's a right side tip down only knife in this case, but feels super great. And again, 25 bucks for that guy. A lot of knife for sure. All three of these knives so far have also had very versatile blades. Spear point, which is just a version of a drop point on the Dozier, and drop points on the other two. Between a drop point and a clip point, there's maybe some debate with some out there, but I say the drop point is the single most versatile shape out there. You can do just about anything with it, from food prep, hunting, general utility, box opening. It's gonna do most of the things you need. But for another big knife with a more specialized blade shape and an impressive price, check out the the Ultra X Omen flipper. Regular price on this, $23. For that, 3.5-inch blade. You've got the kind of modified sheep's foot thing going on here. So a more robust tip in a way, less belly overall for slicing, but full flat grind or high flat grind, good on longer cuts for sure. AUS 8 blade steel here again. Handles, G10, not an injection molded material like the previous 3 knives, so a bit of an upgrade there. Not as refined of a handle shape overall. You can see it's kind of blocky, kind of thick. But if you're looking for a heavier grip, actually everything on the table here, this kind of has the fullest, kind of chunkiest hard use grip of any of these knives. Plenty to hold on to there. AUS 8 steel, again, good solid stuff. Ball bearings in the pivot here. So you actually have like a decent manual flipper. Even though you don't need ball bearings to do a decent manual flipper, this one does have it, which is nice, which means you can also do that flick closed really easily. We got some other nice little details like the X in the pivot right there, kind of the Ultra X thing, and you can adjust that with a simple flathead screwdriver because of that. You don't need a specialized Torx bit or anything. Yeah, really impressed with these. I actually hadn't put my hands on any of these before kind of rounding up the knives on this video, but that really impressed me with the feel in the hand. What do you guys think? All right, what if you want something a little smaller? Maybe the 3-inch blade is a little bit too much for you. Like I said, I didn't want any kind of mini knives on this list, but what if you need a 2.5-inch blade? This guy right here, the Lucas Burnley Holy Squid from CRKT. Small knife doesn't feel tiny. 2.5-inch blade, or sorry, 2.25-inch blade actually. 8CR stainless again, very neutral kind of spear point shape going on. And the handles here, while short, have a neutral profile, so your last fingers can kind of float off the back without feeling cramped. And it's wide enough, or tall enough, however you want to use your nomenclature there, that it doesn't feel scrimpy or shrimpy in the hand either. There's enough there to get a solid grip on. And the holes actually, I think, other versions don't have this, but the Holy version here gives you a little bit more surface area for your fingertips, a little bit more traction still. There's a reason this keeps showing up on a lot of the best inexpensive knife lists out there, because this thing, $23, very affordable. Got a frame lock on the back, which some folks are going to agree that that is one of the more strong lock types on the market, especially since as you grip the knife, you're just gripping that lock even tighter. Very cool, very nice little knife. Folded over pocket clip for the right side. The stainless steel is going to make it very easy when you go to take it out or back into your pocket. Nothing that's going to tear things up too badly, and something that's going to work aesthetically, whether you're out on the town or out in the sticks. It's a pretty cool knife. All right, how about for the next knife, we're gonna blend kind of the ideals of the big knife and the small knife. This is the Camillus LK6. Really nice little flipper that only runs $22 right now. And it's not a large knife, but it's a bit of a beefy knife. It's a little chunkier on both the blade thickness and the actual handle thickness too. So you've got a big, solid grip on it, especially if you use that forward finger choil for a little more space. And the blade is a great cross-section of enough thickness to be rigid and enough height on the flat grind to still slice pretty decently. It's one of those small, hard-use knives. Frame lock again, folded over pocket clip. Ball bearings in the pivot again for very good flipping action. Really nice. This is another knife that I'm glad I'm doing this topic for the video, because I'd kind of overlooked this one before. And I gotta say, I'm kind of sad I did. G10 on the front of this one, the materials. I haven't told you what the blade steel is on this yet. Everything we've looked at so far has been some simple stainless. Everything, essentially AUS 8 or 420 is what we've looked at. This blade has D2 tool steel, which I've said this before, if you're going for the absolute most edge retention per dollar, D2 is the way to go. And the fact that you can get this for just $22 with D2, I mean, the D2 versions of the Dozier are at least 10 bucks more than this particular knife right here. Not completely stainless, so if that's what you're looking for, don't go with the D2, but you're gonna be real hard pressed to find more edge retention for $22 than you can get right here with this excellent tool steel. Now, let's say you've got enough money to spend on this knife, but you've still got an extra $2.50 burning a hole in your pocket. Check out the QSP Parrot. $24.50 for this guy right now. 3 1/4 inch blade, so 3/4 of an inch more than that Camillus, and you still get D2 tool steel with this knife. Very impressive. Again, we've got not a super thin blade, but we do have a full flat grind. It's not a super thick blade either. Just a great all-around general purpose spear point blade on this guy. Enough length to get most work done. G10 for the handles, again. Liner lock. No bearings in this pivot. This is a washer-based pivot. You can see the metallic phosphor there. I'd argue on a knife like this that's gonna get down and dirty, I might actually prefer that over the ball bearing since it's not gonna be as susceptible to dust and that sort of thing. Really, really impressive amount of knife here for $25 too. Pocket clip, single position, right side only, but the grips are nice. There's a few different colors. The fit and finish for 25 bucks, let's see. The Camillus is actually really good on the fit and finish, and that surprised me a little bit. But of all the $25 knives right here, I don't think anything is quite put together as well as this QSP, which is really saying something because there's some pretty good knives already. That's the $25 range covered. I would be perfectly happy recommending any of these knives to folks looking to spend just that amount of money. Really is impressive what you can get, I think, nowadays for not too much cash. But what if we had a little bit more to spend? Let's throw another $5 at the problem and see what we could then get if we, looking up to a $30 budget. Still very, very attainable. First one here, and this one kind of breaks my rules a little bit because this is kind of a mini knife. This is the Cold Steel Mini Tuff Lite. It even says mini in the name. 28 bucks. It's a bit smaller. It's definitely a more specialized shape with this Wharncliffe blade. Actual sharpened edge, I mean, you're less than 2 inches there. Less than 1.5 inches right there, an actual sharpened edge. So it's not quite like the general purpose knife that I would typically look for in this price range, but the build quality and importantly, the strength of the triad lock on this knife is pretty hard to ignore. Works just like a lockback, but inside there's more going on that make it stronger and more long lasting overall. Really hard to argue with the value of this particular knife at 28 bucks. What else can we get for $30 price range? At that point, several CRKTs come into the budget. There's some Ultra X models with more general purpose blades with 440C steel at that price range. So you get a kind of a perceived value jump there with that American made steel. Really solid stuff, especially when running 27, 28 bucks for those too. But two of my favorite CRKTs that come into the price range here at 30 bucks. The Piet, a Voxnaes design, or Jesper Voxnaes. One of these days I'm going to get in front of Jesper and make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I think I am, but we'll see. Blade here, 8CR stainless. We've got about a 2.7 inch blade going on. I really dig the shape here. You've got all the versatility of any normal drop point, but the specific lines of it has a little bit more character, a little bit more personality, certainly than something like the Dozier, which is utilitarian all the way. The Piet's got a little bit more style going on it, perhaps. Material on the handle is injection molded. It's got a really nice contour to it. You're not necessarily getting more for your extra $5 in materials quality, but the way it's put together, it feels a little bit better than the $20 to $25 stuff that we've looked at earlier. I may be imagining that, but I don't think I am. For those of you out there who are familiar with this knife, let me know what you think of that assessment right there. Deep carry pocket clip is reversible for both sides. It's just a classy looking knife. Maybe classy is not the right word, but it's definitely got some style to it. This next CRKT definitely has classy covered though, and this is the Kith, a Ken Steigerwalt design. Also, right at 30 bucks, and honestly makes a pretty convincing gentleman's knife for those of you gents out there on a budget. Even if you don't think of this as kind of a gentleman's knife, it still has kind of classic, classy lines. It's a little bit like an old school slip joint, except you have the advantage of, they're calling this the mid lock, I think. But essentially it's a lock back. Or so they're calling it the front lock, I'm sorry. But essentially it's all the same as a typical lock back in the way it works. Unless I'm missing something, but pretty sure that's how what's going on there. Nice clean lines, 8CR steel, sub 3 inches on the length. Deep carry pocket clip, right side only in this case. Now, one of the things that this knife does very well that also it cribs from kind of the classic pocket knife genre is essentially these are pretty small knives. So you want to still be able to hold on to it even if you have larger hands, and I think this does the trick very nicely. Now again, materials wise, you might not be getting a huge bump up from the $5 fewer knives that we just looked at, but I'll stand by this one for sure. It definitely feels a little bit nicer. Fit and finish is a little bit crisper. The spine is treated really nicely. It's not kind of tumbled around, so everything's kind of bulbous or anything like that. The QSP gets pretty close to this too, though, I will admit, but that's an outlier. That knife is really impressive. Very cool knife. Two more to take a look at. I've got another frame lock for just about that $30 price point. The ESEE Zancudo, great knife. Some folks may be talking about like the Rat 2 from Ontario. I think that's a great knife. It's like $32 these days. I don't know why, but that feels too expensive for this particular question, which is what is the lowest price knife you would recommend? This though, very similar in design and just under 30 bucks. Frame lock, designed by the same people as that Ontario Rat 2. Blade, 3 inches. Aus 8 stainless, full flat ground drop point blade, recognizing a bit of a theme here. Really nicely executed blade. Handle itself has a bit of a distinctive look. Some people don't like it, but it's very effective. Kind of similar to that Holy Squid from earlier. The actual shape of it does a lot to making it feel absolutely locked in to your hand. It's got enough flare and enough height to the actual outline that it is super secure feeling. Now the handles on these knives are injection molded, FRN, a few different colors. It's a really nice feeling FRN. For a while, this back like before I worked here at the KnifeCenter, I would pick these knives up, thought they were great. I actually thought these were G10 handles. They're that well executed. Some FRN handles feel cheap. This does not feel cheap to me. On the back side, you've got a stainless steel frame lock, reversible pocket clip for movable pocket clip from tip up or tip down, whichever you prefer. You got the sturdiness of the frame lock. You've got washers in the pivot for that kind of dirty use mentality, but it still flicks open super nicely. You can also upgrade this to D2 if you want, or even SK5 on some of these versions. So that might only be on the full size version of this, I'm not sure, but there are other options if you want to spend a little bit more money too. Last but not least, we have the RUIKE P801 for 30 bucks. And if I had to kind of put down which knives I was absolutely most impressed with in this price range, there'd be 3 of them. The QSP, that Camillus, and this knife right here. The design is great, the fit and finish is great, and the materials are all very, very good at a $30 price point. 3.5-inch blade, Sandvik's 14C28N stainless, one of my favorite traditional stainless steels of all time, and just $30 on this knife. Stainless steel handles, but not too bulky and not too fat either. So it's, stainless steel can be a bit heavy, and this is not a lightweight knife, but it's also not something that's going to weigh you down. Got some nice kind of luxury feeling accent colors with the blue deep carry pocket clip, single position, the thumb studs, and we even get a nice pivot ring on that particular guy. And we get ball bearings in the pivot here. Obviously that comes with the drawbacks of the potential dust issue, but when you're talking a knife like this, which is doing its best to mimic high dollar frame lock flippers out there, it's the right choice, and it is a really convincing alternative if you've only got 3 $10 bills to spend. Really impressive. Flips great, feels great, carries nicely, full flat grind on that blade. But really, it's got just about everything you could possibly want, unless you wanted to spend more money. Very, very cool knife. But that's all I've got to show you today. Tons of great options here for those folks that don't have a lot of money to spend on a knife. Great thing about today is that doesn't mean they're left out in the lurch without a good, reliable, everyday carry tool. Very cool to see. Let me know your favorite knives, your best, cheapest good knives that you can think of out there. Love to hear them in the comments section. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, either for you or someone else, there will be links in the description. Those will take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program while you're there, because if you're gonna spend your money on one of these knives, might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.